It's been a few days since I made video about leveling with my Frostbolt Stormweaver character, so I wanna give you an update on what I have been doing in the endgame with that character. And the reason why I'm doing a video now is because I do have around 30 divines in my stash, and I am about to spend it on upgrades on my gear, so I still wanted to show you what I have been doing on much cheaper budget, because of course once I do make the changes, I wouldn't be able to show you this version. But this version still has some expensive upgrades, but I am gonna talk about that later. In terms of how build performs, I am doing tier 15 mobs with no issues, and so far I was able to kill the Zest on second difficulty, so most of the pinnacle bosses I would be able to do on the second one. I think I still can do the third one, but I would have to do the mechanics properly, and I'm not gonna try that for now. And here in the background you can see the fight on the second difficulty. And of course I also did my fourth trial, so I killed the trial master. And in terms of how strong is the build, I would say it is fairly balanced. It's not like one of these OP builds like Lightning Spear when you can do pretty well on a budget. You still need to invest into the character, but the gameplay is pretty smooth. I actually very like the build. I like all of the shatters, just freezing everything and so on. It's very satisfying. And with proper investment, I think I'm still gonna be able to clear all of the content, do the tier 4 bosses and so on. It's just gonna take a while, gonna take some investment, which I actually like because it gives me a reason to actually farm the gear. I'm not already crazy stronger and I just farm for nothing. I actually have a reason to farm. Okay, so the first two things I want to talk about are these two expensive items, so Snakepit and the Maligaro Virtuosity. And Snakepit right now is between 8 to 10 divines, and I was able to buy it for 6 when it was cheaper, and then I corrupted it myself, so I got a little bit of mana, it's nothing too crazy. And I bought Maligaro for 4 divines, and it's still 4 divines. The only difference is I was able to buy one with 2 sockets for 4 divines, so I got a little bit of a deal. But the most important item is the Snakepit. Maligaro doesn't matter too much, but it is just nice to have. The way the Snakepit works is that if you have it in the left ring slot, it makes your projectiles no longer pierce, and it gives you fork. And this is pretty important because normally when you shoot the Frostbolt, and let's say there is enemy or a frost wall, Frostbolt is just gonna pass through. And it's still gonna deal damage, it's gonna be decent damage, but nothing too crazy, it's just gonna be the projectile damage, so that one. But if it explodes, so let's say it hits a wall, then it explodes, and then it deals the second damage, so explosion, so it is a little bit more. And of course, if there is an enemy, let's say here, projectile passes through, it hits the enemy, and then it detonates, so it hits the enemy twice with both projectile and the explosion. And the way the Snakepit works is it removes the pierce and adds a fork, so whenever you have a frost wall, it is gonna hit the frost wall, then it's gonna fork, hit the next frost wall, and then explode. So it's gonna look like this instead. And it deals a ton of damage, both from Frostbolt projectiles, Frostbolt explosions, and Frostbolt explosions. And you're gonna hit enemy a lot, which is gonna trigger the cast on freeze and cast on crit, which I'm gonna talk about later. So it's just a lot of overlaps in one space. And this is exactly the reason why it is important to scale the AoE. Earlier, I was getting the AoE here and here. Now I actually removed one of them because I wanted more energy shield, but it is still pretty good to have it, and I might actually go back to this later. I'm still not sure. And also today we got a patch that buffed the radius of Frostbolt explosions. So now if you look at the explosions, they are actually much bigger. But we still do want some AoE for the Frostwall and other stuff like maybe Frostbomb or Comets. But what if you don't have the Snakepit rings? How would your gameplay look like? So basically, before you get it, what I would do is I would focus more on actually placing Frostwalls, because very often you place the Frostwall when there are enemies, and Frostwall is just gonna instantly detonate, killing enemies. Frostwall is just your biggest ability, your best friend. Whenever you see like a bunch of monsters running towards you, you just put on the Frostwall, A bunch of them are just gonna die, most of them are just gonna get blocked, they're not gonna be able to move. And then what you can do is you can just shoot Frostwall and detonate them with Cold Snap. And it's gonna be similar, you just need one additional button. So it would look like this. And most of the Frostwalls are gonna detonate. For me, right now they are sometimes not detonating with one hit, but most of the time they should just instantly detonate. Now for the second item, which is Maligaro Virtuosity, we are using it mostly for the critical damage bonus is set to 300, which means it cannot be changed. And this is good because first of all, we can use things like that, which reduces your critical strike damage bonus by 20%, but because it is set to 300, let me show you, let's say Frostbolt, just regular projectile, I do have still 300% damage, even though I have this, so it doesn't reduce your critical damage. On top of that, there is one pretty OP support, which is pinpoint critical. It gives you 60% more crit chance. Look at my crit, 88%. Without it, it's only 55. A ton of damage. If you look at my DPS, it increases by like almost 50%, I would say. Like 40% or something. It's just huge amount of damage because it has a downside of 30% less damage bonus, but with Maligaro, of course, it doesn't do anything. On top of that, on our tree, we are actually pretty rough on points. There's so many things I would still want to take on this build. I would want to take this elemental damage, I would want to take this spell damage, maybe this. I actually even removed freeze build-up, I removed some meta passives. There's a ton of things I would want to take. And we just don't have enough space to also fit in things like critical strike damage. We have enough to take chance, but not really damage. So right after the campaign, I don't want to say right after, but around the red mass, once I started making pretty good currency, I did focus on swapping to crit. And I also, when I was around level 80, maybe 82, I did swap to crit. And when I did that, I also bought the gloves to get more damage. But if you don't have enough currency to buy this, I still would focus on getting Snakepit first, probably, even though it's more expensive. It's just much more comfortable playstyle with Frostbolt, and then later you go for Maligaro. You're just not gonna have as much damage if you go crit. But the reason we want to go crit is because we want to swap one of the cast on freezes to one cast on crit. The reason why is because cast on freeze most of the time is gonna proc just during clear when you're freezing enemies. On bosses, you're not gonna get that many procs from cast on freeze. So cast on crit is just very good on bosses because we have just so many hits. Like you saw, a lot of Frostbolt explosions, a lot of Frostwall explosions. So there's just many hits. So you get a lot of energy for cast on crit. And my supports for custom crit are just Comet. You could try to reduce a level of Comet. Right now I have level 18 because it costs a lot of mana. Right now it costs 400 and I only have 1000, so you can proc it only twice. Then energy retention, impetus just to generate more of them. Inspiration because of mana cost. Without it, it's how much it is. Actually, it doesn't show. Maybe it does. Does it not work? I actually don't know. I'm gonna have to test it later, but sure it works. It just maybe doesn't show it here. Maybe it doesn't work for triggers. I'm gonna check it later. Maybe I'm gonna leave a comment under a video if I learned something about it, or is it just visual bug? Then elemental focus, 25% more elemental damage. We can't inflict elemental damage, but we don't really care about freezing with custom crit. We are already freezing with other abilities. And in terms of getting 6-link, I would say my first priority would be to go for Frostwall. Because like I said, even without Snakepit, Frostwall is just king. It gives you a lot of damage, so I would focus on getting that first. And what I'm using is Fortress, Spell Cascade, Leverage for more crit against frozen enemies, Glaciation for more freeze buildup, and Rising Tempest for a little bit more damage. We're only using one elemental skill, so it's just 12%. If you don't have other 6-links, I would recommend going for maybe, where is it? I wouldn't use Concentrated Effect, by the way, because that reduces the AoE. I would go for the Ingenuity for cooldown. It just helps a lot. And you can also use Icicle for lower life of the ice crystals, but you can test it if you detonate your frost walls with your Frostbolt and Cold Snap. If you don't have Snakepit, if you just detonate it with one hit, you can remove the icicle. You can also remove the shattered crystal. I no longer need them. I have enough damage to just detonate them with one hit. Glaciation is not needed. Rising Tempest is not really needed, and Leverage. These are 3 optional ones. I would 100% always use Spell Cascade and Fortress just to make your frost walls close to each other. But these 3, you can mess around with them a bit. You can go for cooldown, you can go for less life, you can either go for considered casting on Frostwall. This is actually something I was using for a little bit, so these are all of your options. Then the second 6-link I would go for is probably the Frostbolt. Scatter Shot with Acceleration. Acceleration is good once you have Snakepit because it just lets you shoot your projectiles much faster, so they just travel faster, so just much smoother playstyle. As you can see, without it, they are just pretty slow, so it helps a lot. Arcane Tempo, just more cast speed. Pinpoint, I already explained. It's pretty huge with Maligaro, but it's still good even without it because it just lets you proc more comets with just more crit if you don't have that much crit damage anyway. If you don't have Maligaro, I probably would still go for a little bit of crit damage on the tree. Maybe you can get some damage here. I actually don't even know where are other critical strike just damage nodes. Looks like there is some crit damage here. You might go for this instead of here. You can go here. This is a very good area for crit damage. It's just kind of far. You could take these ones, and there is also critical strike chance here and critical strike damage here. So maybe this is actually probably the first one I would go for. Yeah, there's a lot of crit damage here. So that's without the gloves. So that was this 6-link. Cold Snap doesn't matter too much, that's why I don't have 5 or 6-link, just Unleash for better explosion. I am still using Cold Snap even though I have Snakepit, just so that whenever there are some frozen enemies that have like 50% HP, I can just shatter them. I don't have to shoot with Frostbolt because Cold Snap is actually very fast in terms of cast speed. So it just instantly shatters them just to kill them. Because of this, because I'm not using it too often, inevitable crit pretty much guarantees crit chance, because I already have like huge crit chance, so without it it's, well, it's not like guaranteed, but it's around 70%. And Execute just deals more damage on low life, and because like I said, I just use it to shatter low life enemies, it's very often working. Frostbomb, Spell Echo doesn't really do anything, it's just nice, maybe a little bit of extra damage, but we don't have anywhere to put our Spell Echo on anyway, so this is pretty good to have. Strip Away, of course, increased the exposure effect and magnified effect for bigger AoE. Magnified effect is also something you can play around a bit. You can maybe put it on your Frostbolt for bigger AoE instead of consider casting for more damage, or maybe on your Frostwall or Comet, but I like to have it here. Hypothermia, Ritualistic Curse in Heightened Curses. Some people are using the Cursed Ground. I actually don't like Cursed Ground. I played with it a bit, and I do prefer to play without it, but that's something you can do. Cast on Freeze, Fluke, and Concentrated Effect. I could go for 5 and 6, but to be honest, I kind of ran out of supports. I don't even know what I would put in here. I wish we could put Spell Echo, but it no longer works with Cast on Freeze and Cast on Crit. Also, by the way, Considered Casting doesn't work. You can put it, but it's actually not gonna increase the damage. If you look at the tooltip, just to show you, it actually 3,800, and without it, still 3,800. It doesn't do anything. So you cannot put it in there. So yeah, there is nothing really useful that I could put in here, so I am not using 5-link. And Convalescent, it's pretty good. It just recovers your energy shield, and right now I have 4,000 energy shield, so I'm using it with Persistence, Ingenuity, and if you don't mind having it longer cooldown, you can put it on Frostwall instead. And Second Wind, because I most of the time when I really need a convalescent, I need it like often, so I rather have 2 charges with longer cooldown than just 1 charge with shorter cooldown. But that is up to you if you want to play with this or without it. And shield charge without nothing, and of course shield charge in on my second weapon set, and I also put convalescent on my second set. I actually forgot to remove it from the first one. This also makes it so you can technically remove it from reservation on your first set, so you have 30 spirit. I might put some different aura just to have that. And then whenever you're gonna press it, I actually can't do it when I am on full ES, but whenever you're gonna press it, you're gonna swap to the second set automatically because it's only on second set. And it's gonna have shorter cooldown because of this shield. And that's when it's gonna reserve your spirit. So yeah, put it on the second set. Everything else should be on the, well, custom crit and freeze doesn't really matter. You can have it on both. And Frostwall, you want to make sure it's only on the first, and Hypothermia on the second, Frost Bomb on the second, Cold Snap, and Frostbolt only on the first. And it is pretty useful to have a wand with mana drains. I have it on my weapon swap so that if you run out of mana, you can still use it if you don't have Flask. And for bosses, when I was fighting Pinnacle bosses, I am using stuff with Sigil of Power to give me more damage, but that's just for Pinnacle bosses. I don't really need it for anything else. Now for the tree. I've been experimenting with it a lot. It's definitely gonna change again in the next 24 hours. And by the way, you can just check out my planner. I'm gonna just keep updating it to see my current changes. So right now I went for Energy Shield because I just wanted more defense. I actually lost a decent amount of damage. I am considering going back to this area because right now I don't have any percentage spell damage increase. I only have Elemental here. So percentage just regular increases give me a lot of damage right now. So I might actually go for this, maybe even this area of effect. There is a few. Oh, and also this. This is 30 and 30. Actually, I think this is the most important one. I'm probably gonna go for this, but we will see. I mentioned earlier I removed the trigger just to get more energy shield nodes and all of the crit nodes. So crit we get here, here, and here. These are all of the crit chance. You can get it on the first set only because we don't need the crit on the second set. Then I went for the projectile nodes so that every time you shoot Frostbolt, you have a chance for additional projectiles. I have it here and here. And also the projectile speed helps you with Frostbolt, of course. Then the next thing I went for is the shock effect, because now I have my 4 ascendancy points, so I have exposure effect, I have arcane surge, and I also have all of my hits can't shock. And I have 2 shocks with less magnitude. So now, because I'm shocking, I went for increased effect here and increased effect here. So I have, I think, 27% shocks, and I have 2 of them, of course. So it is pretty good amount of damage. Then energy shield nodes here and here and here. I'm probably gonna redo it a bit. I think I am gonna go for stun and aim and threshold. Now we got some changes this patch, so I think these nodes are pretty good. And also that's the thing that I want to do with the money that I'm gonna spend now on the build, is I'm gonna probably swap to CI. And that's exactly what I'm kind of trying to do right now. I still like to have a little bit of life for now, but once I completely swap my gear to go for full CI, right? Like as you can see right now, this one still has 170 life. Once I go full CI, I am gonna change my tree a little bit again. I'm gonna reduce my chaos res because I'm no longer gonna need it. So that's gonna be in the planner once I make the changes. What else? Jewels. I have meta skills gain energy, mana on kill. Mana on kill, the most important one. This is actually insane jewel. I was able to buy it with 3 mods and I exalted the 4th one. It gives me ES and recharge rate. The most important thing, mana regen. I would say meta skills increase energy is not as important as I thought it is, because we don't have enough mana anyway. The biggest problem of this build is mana. We don't only have 1000 mana. You could reduce the level of Comet to get a smaller mana cost, but it doesn't matter too much. I tested it with lower levels, you're just gonna deal less damage, so there's no point in doing that. But what I want to do is I want to increase my mana, and if I increase my mana to, let's say, like 2000, I think I might try out Archmage. We'll have to see what I do with the build later. So yeah, mana on kill is important, but meta not as important because we are the mana is our bottleneck anyway, and this is why I removed these points here. Even though Energize is actually kind of crazy, so I would want to do that. Oh, and also I just remembered for the projectile part, I am also going for here additional projectile when I'm forking. This is my anointment on the amulet. So if you're wondering what I anointed, it's this. And before I could afford it, because this is decently expensive, I did go for this anoint and I removed these points because this one is kind of cheap. And I think that's it in terms of the tree. And I'm still doing the trick where I have the second weapon set on my curses and all of the exposure. And this allows me to have some extra points for my just first set, which are here, here, and here. But it doesn't really matter where you put them. You can just put the red points, whatever. You can do it here, here, here. Everything that is just damage. So that was the tree. For the gear, I did craft this wand. It was a pretty good craft. I fractured the +5 and then I chaos spammed until I got 98% crit chance. Crit chance was the most important thing I wanted to get here. And then I Exile slammed the double as extra, which is pretty good. I would prefer to have here cast speed or maybe more spell damage. I don't think as extra is like that crazy for me right now. I think percentage to spell increase are better, but it is what I have for now. And on my offhand, I have +2, also crit chance, cast speed. So this is something I would prefer to have on my suffixes on my weapon. +2, crit chance, and cast speed. But of course, I cannot afford it yet. And on prefixes, just increase energy shield. This spell damage doesn't do anything. It's just something I bought. I think I bought this for like 1 or 2 divines. Helmet, just life, ES, resists. This is something I'm gonna replace soon. Amulet, I think I crafted this. I got a cast speed with Spirit. Spirit, of course, is important. I actually could reduce it by 30 because now I am using Convalescence here. Then just attributes. You actually need all 3 attributes on this build because Maligaro is 30 dexterity and we are using shield charge, which requires actually only 16 strength. I don't need strength though for my chest, which I'm also gonna replace pretty soon. But yeah, you do need a good amount of attributes, so all attributes pretty good. Increase ES and resistances. I would want to have here, I actually don't know what I want to have on amulet. I think maybe mana, because I want to go for some more mana, or the +2 levels of scales, but my mana cost is already kind of high, so maybe not. I'm gonna have to think about what to go for. On the second ring, just life, resist, nothing too crazy. I'm probably gonna go for ES, mana, and triple resist, maybe rarity. I'm gonna have to think about that. And mana regen is, of course, also pretty good. Boots, just movement speed, most important thing. ES, resist, that's it. I might go for some additional mana soon. And I actually crafted boots that are pretty good, but I'm not using them. These are the boots. They're probably not gonna sell for 20, I just posted them for 20. And they are actually exactly what I would want on the boots. Energy shield, rarity, double res, it's insane. But unfortunately it has only 10% movement speed, so that's why I'm selling them. I'm actually gonna reduce it to maybe 15. Probably gonna sell it for like 5-10 divs eventually. And for the belt, this is something that I definitely have to replace. It has like almost nothing, just life, mana, resist. That's basically it. Once I go CI, I'm just gonna go for probably just as high energy, not energy shield, resist as possible, and mana. That's basically it. Gloves and ring I already talked about, and the chest I'm using Waste Shaper. The reason why is because it just has pretty solid stats. Just ES, Spirit, Resist, 400 ES is not too bad. And it also gives you that increases to mana regeneration also applies to ES. So if you look at my recharge per second, it's actually very, very high right now. And that's mostly because of this. But I only used it because it was cheap and I didn't have that much money. So I wouldn't just specifically go for it. And this is just comparable to a rare chest for the same price, so that's why I went for it. I'm probably gonna upgrade it to a chest with like 700, 800 ES. I don't know if I'm still gonna go for Spirit. I might just try to get more Spirit on Amulet and remove the Spirit on the chest, and then some resistances on the suffixes. And try to get as good mana flask as possible with increased amount of recovered and reduced charges per use, because you really are gonna need mana flask. This build just burns through your mana like crazy. And now also we can get a rune on the weapon. I went for the 30% spell damage. I tested all of the options. This one right now gives me the most amount of damage, and everything else is just resistances and some energy shield and resistances here. So yeah, I think that's everything about the build. I don't think I forgot anything. And like I said, my next upgrades are gonna be go CI, get more energy shield, gonna try to fit in some aim threshold. I'm gonna try to fit in some more just regular spell damage increases. And also I am considering going Archmage once I get maybe like 2000 mana or something. Archmage is also pretty good because when you get lightning damage, you can remove Shaper of Storms. We're gonna shock just because we are Archmage, so I'm gonna be able to go for the Force of Will, and this should help with mana a lot. Of course, Archmage makes your skills cost more mana, but if you go Archmage, it's just 6% of mana, which is not that bad. If you compare it to something like Comet, which costs 400 mana, if you have, let's say, 2000 mana, Archmage costs like additional 100, 150 mana, somewhere around that. So it's not that much more mana when you are using Archmage. But of course it also increases the cost of your Frostbolts and so on. So I'm gonna just have to test it. I'm not sure if the Archmage is the answer for this build yet. So we're gonna see that in the future upgrades. If you have any suggestions, maybe what I should do with a build, what should I test, any recommendations, leave the comments of course. But that's gonna be it for now. Thanks for watching and see you next time.